The heck?
Okay.
Try that
Can
again.
everybody hear us now?
Yes.
You gave a thumbs up. Brian gave a thumbs up. Cliff did too. Okay.
Okay.
Keith Griffey, we have from Bullock County. City of Charlestown. I see Cliff. Hi, Cliff. I was mentioning while I was on mute that Matt Meunier will be a little bit late today, so he'll join us later from City of Jeffersontown. Anybody from City of Jeffersonville? How about Mount Washington?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Emma. Emma's a new alternate member from Mount Washington, so thanks for joining us, Emma.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the TTCC. New Albany.
Larry's here.
Hey, Larry. Shepherdsville.
Yes, Arthur Jones.
Hi, Arthur. St. Matthews.
Keenan's here.
Clark County.
I'm here. Brian Dixon.
Floyd County.
Nick Creevy's here.
Hi, Nick. IDEM. NDOT Public Transportation.
Julie Feltner, I'm here.
Julie. Let's see. NDOT Urban and Long Range Planning. I don't see Emmanuel on the line. How about NDOT Seymour? Hi, Haley. And hi, Greg. Kentucky DAQ.
Hi, this is Claire. We're here.
Hi, Claire. See Blake also. Hi, Blake. KYTC District 5.
Tom Hall.
Hello, Tom. KYTC Central Office. Hello, Citro. Get this here. KYTC Office Transportation Delivery. Louisville Metro APCD. Hi, Flannery. Hi, D. Metro Economic Development. Metro Planning and Design.
Here.
Brian. Metro Public Works. Louisville Regional Airport Authority.
Daryl Watson's here.
And Daryl. Oh, I see Mark. Mark, I see you. Public Works. Anybody from the Riverport Authority? Good crowd. It's hard to check out. Oldham County.
Andy, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. Oldham County Planning Commission.
Anna Bark.
Anna. Anybody from the Port of Indiana? How about Park Accessibility Council? Town of Clarksville. Back from Clarksville, and then Park.
Yes.
Hello. Let's see. I think we have several. Matt Meunier's in the room, so hey, Matt, if you can hear us.
I can hear.
Hey, welcome. Let's see. Amongst our advisory members, I see Jack Harrison from One Southern Indiana. Thank you for joining us, Jack. Thanks for joining us. And that might be it. We have a couple folks that said they wouldn't be here today that are advisory members as well. So we got a great crowd. Thank you for being here today. And at that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Andy. Second item on the agenda, since we did not have meeting in July, is approval of June TTCC minutes. Does anyone have comments or questions, or if any revisions are needed? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you, Tom.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposition? Motion carries. Thanks. Number 3 on the agenda, Transportation Policy Committee report, review the June TPC meeting activities. Andy will present.
Yes, ma'am. The TPC met most recently on June 26th. It was July was a month off for the TPC, just like it was for us as a TTCC. At that meeting, it was a relatively light meeting. Mr. Tom Springer, who's joined us today, spoke to the TPC about the I-64 interchange and connector study, the interchange that would be in the far eastern edge of Jefferson County, or potentially even right on the borderline or just into Shelby County, perhaps even, but right there at the Jefferson-Shelby County border. So that's an ongoing effort KYTC is engaged in, or I guess the study's over. The project is still amongst the projects that could be discussed later. We talked a little bit about our call for projects. So we'll have more on that in the next coming months. And there's admin mods. It was a relatively light meeting, as I said, so it was pretty quick. I think we got in and out within 30 or 45 minutes, as I recall. So that concludes that report.
Thank you, Andy. Public comment period. Greg will let us know review of comments submitted prior to the meeting and entertain any comments.
Yes, not receiving any comments prior to the meeting, and I'm not seeing any in the Q&A.
Thank you. Number 5 on the agenda, we have Air Pollution Control District presentation, CARE. D will present and discuss air quality and the factors to go into education and spreading the word about this program. Thank you.
Just look up there.
Yeah, good afternoon. Happy to be here to give you a little bit of a show and tell of some of the things that CARE has been doing, the activities that we've been doing to help the air in our local community over the last couple seasons. For those of you who are unfamiliar, and I think that might be just a few people in this room, CARE stands for Kentuckiana Air Education. And our goal is to impact the individual choices in what those do to local air quality. So the essentials of the CARE program, not only to communicate the air quality alerts that we sometimes have in our area and share forecasts, but also to motivate and empower the public with the information that they need to make healthy choices and to reinforce the behaviors that actually help the air in our local airshed, and to produce an effective strategic marketing campaign and to engage the public face-to-face festivals and activities. Couple other CARE basics. CARE is grant funded and CARE is also regional. My space is at the APCD, Air Pollution Control District. And one full-time employee that works on this grant. Received a CMAQ grant from Indiana that is overseen by the folks here at KIPTA. And our media buys that we created, some of which you'll see in the presentation. Those are done by a local ad agency, Powers Capecchio, which is a homegrown ad agency, and it was chosen through the usual government RFP process. Okay, and before I get into campaigns and all the activities, I kind of needed to look at why we're here and what we're trying to accomplish. And I realized, this is one of those slides that you look at, kind of you peer at it from across the room and you kind of see what the trends are. I don't expect you to have to read the tiny numbers on there. But I do want you to see that ozone has been a persistent pollutant in the Louisville region. And we have made some inroads. We've gotten closer to those national ambient air quality standards over time. And along the way, those standards have also gotten tighter and more difficult to reach. And you can see that without a few outliers, we've come really close to meeting those standards. And, again, there's a few years, but you can see that we are just right at the cusp of reaching those standards. Ozone is our summertime pollutant. It's an odorless, colorless gas that replaces the oxygen that your body needs. And also, we are also looking at fine particle pollution. And again, you can see the trend. The trend is downward. And also the trend is the standards are getting tighter. So the fine particle pollution, it's a solid, it's part of the smoke and smog, is close again to that standard. But the standard is also tighter, and obviously there's no good dose of air pollution where you're trying to reach what are considered the ambient air quality standards. Okay. We use the air quality index in our communication toolbox to talk about these different pollutants. Ozone's a gas, you know, it gets measured in parts per million. And then we have, you know, particle pollution, particulates that are solid, they're weighed, micrometers, micrograms. The public gets a little confused when we start throwing those kind of numbers out. So we use the air quality index as an equalizer for all types of pollution. And it's a scale that shows us where that particular pollutant might start affecting people. And that equalizer, that point where it starts to go over the standards at 100. So on days like today, we received a forecast from all the folks at IDEM, and our people from APCD weigh in and they look at what our forecast is. And obviously today's a good day. It was cloudy this morning, there's a little bit of a breeze. You know, those aren't the conditions for formation of ozone. And the wildfire smoke is staying well above us and not affecting our ground level air quality. So we do not have an air quality alert. In fact, it's a good day to breathe, go out running, working, whatever you want to do outdoors. Okay. But on days, and I'm looking at maybe this weekend, we might have some conditions that are right for ozone. We might have some high pressure. We might have high temperatures again, cloudless, sunny days, stagnant air. That's when those pollutants have a chance to build up, especially ozone. So if the forecasters tell us there's going to be an alert, we send that out. And those air quality alerts are to protect everyone. You may think, I'm not a sensitive person, really. And sensitive groups include a lot of folks. I'd say every person is in the sensitive groups at some point in their lives. And that's a large percentage of our population. The people who have asthma, people with COPD, babies, pregnant women, seniors, people with heart disease, people who are running outdoors, because the more you exert yourself in the air pollution, the more you take into your lungs. So, you know, I've had triathletes tell me that they feel miserable while they were running at the end of the day when ozone was highest during an air quality alert. Okay. And we send those out to media. You see, we get them on the TriMark signs. We communicate them to over 8,000 people that we have in a database. It gets picked up by weather apps, the National Weather Service. So we communicate that alert on many channels, including social media. And the second part of that air quality alert is trying to direct people towards behaviors that actually help the air. Now, are you going to change your whole way of living on an air quality alert day? Probably not. But these are things that are helpful. You know, one of the things that air quality alert does is we send a message to the Louisville Metro Mow team. So they will delay their mowing, they will do other things on a day when we have an air quality alert. We don't want people burning things on that day. We ask people to reduce their idling, to, you know, see the whole list of their things that they can do using public transit, sharing the ride, you know, making sure other people know that they're under an air quality alert. And those are the kind of things that we communicate in our marketing campaign, behaviors that people can do that will impact the air quality. And like most people, we have very solid habits. We have a routine. When we get up in the morning, we do certain things. So asking people to suddenly change their lives about how they do things on an air quality alert day probably isn't really fair. And so what we try to do is make people aware of the issue. And maybe you can change a habit that's a year-long habit, such as reducing idling, especially in a car rider line. You know, I was a JCPS mom for so many years, and I was in that car rider line. It's a terrible place to be anyway. But, you know, when you realize that those, you know, all those engines have been running sometimes an hour, sometimes, you know, more than that. And you're sitting in the middle of it, waiting for your child. And then your child is walking out of those doors through all of that exhaust on the way to get in the vehicle. And sure, you know, I'm breathing it in, grandma in the next car, she's breathing it in, maybe other kids in the back, but that's an everyday thing. Every single school day going in and out. So if we can try to change those behaviors so that it becomes a habit, you know, we want to reinforce those habits. You know, we want to build awareness about it. Now, our marketing campaign, we can see the geographic focus. Again, it's regional. CARE's a regional program. We work with Clark and Floyd over in Indiana, as well as Jefferson, Bullitt, and Oldham on this side. Okay. I'm going to feature some things that we did in 2 different marketing campaigns. One last year that ran April through August, and then we also ran a campaign in June. Now we're still compiling a lot of our results from that campaign. We've got a few top lines that I can share with you, and then we'll have a full report later on. Okay, and like a lot of ad campaigns, we're in the middle of a lot of different types of noise. You know, we're not Yum Brands, we're not Coca-Cola, we don't have a huge budget. So we have to be very careful about our strategies for this campaign, and we have to make sure that we are finding the people who are open to our message. Okay, this is kind of our basic overall message for the last 2 campaigns. The little things do matter. You see the little kids, they're waiting for the bus. It calls to attention one of your sensitive groups, which is children. A lot of people are willing to make sacrifices, like turning off your car as a sacrifice for the sake of kids, especially kids with asthma. And empowering people is, again, part of this marketing campaign, because a lot of people feel like, I can't do anything about air quality. I'm just one person. But if we all make small changes, we can have an impact on the air. And Care Today for a Better Tomorrow communicates that. Okay, so the strategy is about creating that awareness, getting our message out there, using things like broadcast TV, not a lot of it because we don't have a huge budget. CTV, which is streaming, if you use Roku, maybe you sign on to your TV through YouTube, broadcast radio, and streaming audio, which would be your Pandora or your Spotify. Okay. The idea behind our ad campaign was to kind of cast a wide net within those counties, but then bring people in through interaction and through pairing our ads with things they're already interested in. I'll give you some examples. Okay, here's an array of our different video ads. On the left-hand side, you'll see some of our out-of-home video ads. And out-of-home just simply speaks, you know, you're out of your house. And the far left, you're in the grocery store and there's a screen there above where your checkout is. Or maybe you're at a gas station. At the top, you can see that's like a student union at one of the local colleges. Or maybe you're driving and you see a digital billboard. So those are out of home. We also have video ads that would show up on your laptop or on your screen. Let's say you're gonna watch your movie. Pick that, okay, I'm gonna watch Maverick. And you put it up there on the screen and you will see what's called a pre-roll, which is a video that you'll see 2 or 3 ads before your movie starts. Okay. Or it could happen if you're watching it on your phone. At the bottom, you'll see what's called a takeover ad. Louisville is a huge market for sports media. We are a sports culture here in Louisville. And in the summer of 24, obviously it wasn't basketball season, but people were watching golf. Not me, I don't watch golf, but people were watching golf and people were watching Major League Baseball. And live sports is a great place to place your ads because people can't forward through the commercials. Okay, so if you were watching that baseball game, at some point there was a lull. Okay, in basketball would be probably a timeout. In this case, it was one of those conferences on the pitcher's mound where there's really nothing happening, but they're not going to break away from the game. So that window shrinks, showing the little conference on the mound, and then the care ad kind of took over the rest of the screen. Just long enough to get the message across, and includes a little QR code. I have another photo of that, so. And then on the far right is a mobile ad, and once you have people, they see the ad. If you want a deeper understanding of what's going on with air quality, and air quality is not simple. And some of the things that you do to help with air pollution, some of those things can be a little bit complex for a short and sweet little sentence. So if that ad came up, you can see there were little circles on the car where you could tap on it and would give you different tips on how to do vehicle maintenance to help your car be more efficient and, you know, make your car a more clean, efficient ride. So a variety of different types of video ads. Here's kind of a close-up at what some of those out-of-home ads what they look like. The left, the gal riding her bike, the little cloud logo guy, he has this little bike helmet on, it's super cute. But that ad would show up in a recreational area. Whereas the one on the right about making sure that your tires are at the right pressure, you know, kind of pump it up. That one worked best at a place like a gas station or a gym. Okay. One of the other things we took into consideration is the transition to our website. In 2023, we made an effort to make sure that our website was not only mobile friendly, but also accessible. And we also thought about when people are looking at these ads and say something comes up on your phone, do you trust it to click on it? And when I click on it, do I look like I've gone somewhere else? Am I still in the same territory? And so, you know, when it goes from the ad on the left to the website on the right, you can kind of see the colors, you know, echo each other, and you can kind of say that's kind of a seamless experience. And, you know, we want care to be friendly and trustworthy, and we want to be your source for quality information. And we don't want you to feel like you jumped somewhere else. Okay. I've listed some of our media campaign results. I can also, I usually share our media campaign reports with anybody that asks for them. But, you know, the 2024 campaign had over 42 million impressions. The 2025 spring campaign, like we said, we've concluded it. We're still in the process of getting our reports, but we do have a couple top lines. The digital display sent more than almost 31,000 clicks to the CARE website. And at the CARE website, there's an opportunity for them to sign up for an email when we have an air quality alert. So that's very helpful. And that's basically we want people to want more information. And our click-through rates were really good, as well as the Pandora ads sent a lot of reached many people. There we go. Okay. Something new that we tried. We always try to kind of push the envelope a little bit. At one time we did the Waze ads, where if you were using Waze directions and you were sitting in the same spot for a long time, it sensed that and it would send out an ad about being idle free. Waze doesn't do that anymore. But we tried it and it was very successful, and it was kind of a little risk thing. We tried a little bit of AI or artificial intelligence with the last campaign. And I know you're thinking, oh, is this where my phone is listening to me? This is where people will say that they're being spied on, and you know, really, you think about it, we share a lot of information when we're clicking around in our phones, when we're searching things, browsing different websites, shopping a little bit, interacting with our friends. And we leave enough little nuggets of information in our computer that, you know, it shouldn't be a surprise when after you've clicked at all these different things, your internet offers you up the opportunity to buy that pickleball racket that you've been wanting. and to suggest a gym and, you know, maybe, some PT after that and some pain relief, you know, so we are not using it for nefarious purposes at all, but trying to pair our ads, with the people who are seeking out information that's a good fit with the parent messages. In this case, people who were targeted, who were searching for state and city park visiting information. So, you know, and that's a great pairing. If they're looking to take a hike with their family, you know, maybe they have a child with asthma, air quality information will be a really good thing for them to have. So, you know, that was a good pairing and that kind of helped us make sure we were finding the correct audience. Okay. Some things that are still with us, things that Kara's still doing. We still do the idle-free signage for schools, for businesses, for neighborhoods. And also, you know, the CARE website, healthyair.org, is accessible, and we post the forecast. That was yesterday's forecast. Today is good, tomorrow's moderate. Okay, we're still doing idle-free schools. Working with all kinds of groups who want to improve the community's air, especially around their schools, because again, Colorado lines kind of came back with a vengeance in the last couple of years. And some of the progress we made, we need to kind of get back in there and reinforce good behaviors. I've got a group of Girl Scouts up there, and they were rewarding people who turned off the cookies. And that's the most effective marketing I can think of. I am working with the Girl Scout group over in Jeffersonville in September, and I'm really kind of looking forward to it. They do great events. The middle is a kindergarten poster. There was a letter sent home to parents about why they shouldn't idle, and the kids drew a poster on the back telling why they should be idle free. And on the far right hand side, I don't have a branded picture yet, but this is the mock-up of the car rider tags that most elementary and middle schools use in JCPS. And that on the one side of the card that I didn't show up here has your name, or not the name of the school and the number, so that when you drive up, you get matched with the right child. Okay, so on the other side, the part that's facing the driver is what you see here. So you have your reasons to turn off. Our count to 10, far off then, same. And also a QR code, which is new. We've been doing these for many years, but we added the QR code so that parents could, while they're waiting, go right to our website to find out more about idle-free. Of course, we do social media, you know, and that includes X, used to be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I had Threads. Some people were exiting X, so I found them on Threads, keep them up there. So, and we share things, you know, not only the forecast and air quality alerts, but events that are going on, things that we're part of, and also when we're at events. I don't FaceTime as much as Greg does, but you know, I try to get out there.
He does get on, he does show his face.
He does a great job of that. I have to give him kudos. We were out at a lot of community events, too many to show and too many to picture here. We did a promotion with Louisville Athletics. That's their soccer field or their field hockey field. I'm not sure which. And we, through that promotion, I was able to have an interview with Cardinal Authorities, Jody Demling. And he talked about being part of the sensitive groups to ozone. It was a good conversation that aired on their radio station. We had Street Fest with some fans, and then those little girls are at Cycluvia, and that was very recently out on Frankfurt Avenue in front of the library. And there's our partners, the people that share spaces at the table with us, the people that have long supported what CARE does, and we try to support back what they do for us. Okay, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention some of the other programs we have going on at Air Pollution Control District. The Lawn Care for a Cleaner Air program, where you can get a rebate on your electric mowing equipment. And that continues throughout the summer. And also Grow More and Mow Less, where you replace part of your lawn with something that doesn't have to be mowed. And the Air Quality Action Partners, or ACAPs, are businesses who volunteer to do extra activities or do something that reduces emissions on days where we have air quality alerts. So we're growing those ACAPs. Here's my social media, if you care to follow. If you want to see more of what CARE is doing and you don't want to wait for me to come back to another meeting. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dee. This was really great presentation. It's always, we know it, but it's always different when we hear it one more time.
Exactly.
It's a great reminder, so thanks. And plus, the growth of your program over the years is significant, so I can say that as a member of KIPTA for many years now. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
So-
Thank you.
Do you,
Questions? Yeah?
do you, have any recommendations as far as like, what local governments can regulate to, whether it's like on businesses or like in planning and zoning ordinances to reduce air pollution by businesses that come in, you know, or zoning ordinances that can help improve air quality?
That's a really good question. We've had someone part-time in the planning, you know, down at the 444 building that signed off on plans for new builds. And so that's part of the work we do. They analyze for air quality impacts based on, you know, where are people exiting this new subdivision or where this business is going. So that part we kind of have a connection with. I think it's, you know, I usually talk to like chamber groups, businesses, you know, who are looking at, you know, like Louisville Nature Center called me and they said, people are just sitting in their parking lots over lunch eating, but they've got their cars idling the whole time, you know, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of nature and enjoying it. But, you know, they asked me for signage, you know, and for some, you know, glove box type brochures to put at their table, you know, of course, people aren't coming in,
Right.
you know, so, you know, looking at your plans and figuring out how people are gonna get around. And, you know, it'd be nice to have somebody evaluating like schools and how they set up their car ride line. The newer schools are built with kind of a loop that goes around them just for car riders, which, you know, some of the older schools are right along streets where people are sitting in the streets and it's harder to get a handle on idling because they're on the street or on the road, the busy road. So planning is a big part of this and, you know, maybe afterwards we can have a quick conversation about some things.
Dee, what do you think's kind of the next couple of years for us public sector agencies that advertise, because we do for our Every Community Counts program? What's the best return on investment? Is it those digital ads instead of the, hey, this traffic report on WHAS radio is brought to you by CARE or by ECC? Is that where we're going in terms of value and effectiveness?
Get out my crystal ball.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I think just being very strategic and smart about knowing who you're trying to reach. You know, we have the geographic boundaries and that helps kind of narrow things down a little bit. And we don't have the money to buy, you know, we're not the Hammer buying every ad that airs, you know, 24/7, you know, we can't do that. So we're finding out what are people using? What are people watching? And trying to find a way to, again, you know, using the AI is a kind of a desperate way in a way to try to find out, well, what are people doing? You know, a lot of what worked for us last year was pairing our messages with the weather. Because air quality is weather related and people are checking the weather or planning to go out, probably. You know, if you're sitting at home inside, you don't worry about that. So I think, you know, just pairing with things that they're already interested in, you know, and again, you know, doing our collabs with other agencies is very helpful, you know, sharing what knowledge we have and sharing our opportunities. You know, there are times that Greg will email me and say, hey, I'm gonna do this festival. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Or, you know, that doesn't work for me. That's not exactly my target. But, you know, trying to find places where people are available and willing to talk about the environment and air quality. Especially summer 2023, where we're out there in the middle of all that smoke. And that wildfire smoke, I thought, well, what am I doing out here? It's very smoky. I don't know if I should be out here. And then somebody came running up to my table and I thought, ooh, we gotta have to talk. You should not be running in this, you know, because it's unhealthy. So, you know, we look at new strategies when they're available and affordable, and also, you know, trust to some experts. You know, our ad agency has done some really good analysis of what's available and what will work well for us.
Do the ad agencies, are they able to pinpoint like which apps the ads show up in? Like the weather app, is that how that works?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, choosing, you know, my young adult children, you know, they really don't watch regular TV.
No.
They don't watch, they aren't on Facebook, that's for sure. You know, that they're basically, you know, finding out what they're using. And young adults are kind of open to new ideas about commuting and about, you know, they haven't fully formed their driving habits. So, you know, finding out what they're doing. I don't have a TikTok channel. I don't know that I can manage that very well. But again, I'm a one-person staff. So, you know, but trying to figure out what that audience is, you know, pulling towards and kind of trying to go with them if you can. So.
Great. Great, any other questions?
If you think it's something later, I think, you know, my email's probably widely available, or you can just go to the CARE website. Okay, this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Next item is Shift 2026 boost. Spencer Williams will reveal project for us which have been recommended for boosting as part of the Shift process while building Kentucky State Pilot Plan. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you. So last Friday afternoon,
Everybody in the room have one of these sheets, by the way?
Yes, thank you.
and for everyone online, I sent it out yesterday, the spreadsheet we're looking at in the room. The only people who wouldn't have it are the Indiana folks. So it only got sent out to all the Kentucky folks and the federal partners and advisory people. So
Well, Haley gets a sneak peek today.
yeah. So on Friday, we met as part of the shift process to boost projects that we sponsored back in April, May. So if you guys recall, we selected about, I want to say like 91 projects back in the spring. And for the deeper cut, we had to narrow it down to 18 projects that we wanted to boost. When we boost projects, what that means is in the scoring process for the KYPC shift process, we're giving projects 10 more points out of the 100 points they get total. So you'll see on the spreadsheet that 2026 shift raw scores, that last column. That's the score it got out of the black box. I'm gonna call it that. The first project on there, that Bullitt County widened 5245 from Vernon Forest to the community college, that wouldn't have 51.84 now, it would have 61.84 now. I will say what this doesn't show, and it will make a better, more comprehensive spreadsheet before TPC. This doesn't show KYTC's boost. It did on Friday. We wanted to show which ones they boosted, but we took it off of this one, just to kind of illustrate, hey, these are just the ones that we're boosting, regardless of whether KYTC boosted them or not. But we'll send out another spreadsheet that shows all those as well, so we can so everyone can kind of get an understanding of, okay, maybe that first one got double boosted, so it's not a 51.84 anymore, it's a 71.84. Essentially what we're trying to do is when the state lawmakers in the springtime next year, you know, go to fund projects in District 5 and around the state, we're saying, hey, these projects in particular are the ones that we really want to emphasize. These are where the local needs and priorities are. You know, sometimes they're not always the highest scoring projects, like you'll see, you know, that third one on the Bullitt County list is 35. But, you know, the boost can really help, you know, push those projects higher on the list. Even just one boost from us or KYPC gives a 10, you know, that 35 to a 45, that might change it from the bottom third to the middle third, which can be a big deal when there's only so many dollars to go around the region. So right here, we got 18 projects. We decided that we were gonna do 3 in Bullitt, 3 in Oldham, and 12 in Jefferson. So 3 in Bullitt County were the widen 245 from Burnham to the Community College, reconstruct KY 44 from US 31EX to US 31E bypass, and then improve safety and reduce congestion on Kentucky 1450. In Oldham County, also did 3. They were on Kentucky 393 and Kentucky 53. And then in Jefferson, there were 12. There are couple 31W projects, 31E, US 42, US 60, 61, Kentucky 155, Kentucky 1747, and Kentucky 1865. They did a really good job kind of spreading the boost all around the county. They didn't really focus in one particular area, but and then you'll notice that there aren't any interstates on here because most of the interstates got pulled out as part of the statewide priorities that KYTC central office selects, and they kind of get scored in a different process. So we don't have to use a boost on I-71 projects or I-65 projects or I-265 projects because most of them got prioritized at the statewide level. So everything is in this list right now is organized by kind of like the route. So, you know, you can look at those. There's all the scores, like I said, on the right side. You got the MTT scores. You got what happened in 2024. Did they get boosted? Did they get just sponsored? Did they get double boosted? And the colors mean who sponsored it in the springtime. So the blue is KYPC and the yellow is KIPTA. Anything else I should add to that, Andy?
No, the 18, just for those that are new to the shift process or from Indiana, or both. The 18 was not because these were the only 18 that we thought were worthy. The 18 was what was that was the limit that we were given. KIPTA, or as part of the KIPTA NPO. So 18 is pretty scarce. And so we wish we could boost more. No, there's no doubt about that. But unfortunately, 18 is the number that we have, and so it was chosen more or less by the constituencies from each of the counties. For those that weren't at the meeting the other day, that is to say that the folks from Oldham County, you know, chose these 3: Bullitt County, Jefferson County, etc. So I think that's important to mention here too.
Yeah, we had a good turnout. There was 12 to 15 people in the room from all 3 MPO counties. And, you know,
We scheduled it on a Friday afternoon, so everybody was ready to get out of there. Right? So we kept it to 90 minutes, the scheduled 90 minutes, which was a bit of an accomplishment in and of itself.
Fast and efficient.
I hope so.
yeah, plus everybody came really prepared, and we thank everyone for that, but I think it went really well. These are all the projects that were sponsored are great projects. They're just, again, he said not enough boosts to go around, but I mean, we had 18, the RTC gets 9, District 5 gets 29, so those have been spread all throughout the 3 MPO counties, the 4 of the rural counties, and Franklin County, so, you know, trying to prioritize things around our region where we can.
So the TDCC does have the opportunity, I suppose, to adjust these if it was the desire of this committee. And likewise, the TPC will as well here in a couple of weeks. And so, but we are seeking a TTCC recommendation today to say that we, you know, that if it's the will of this group to basically recommend what that working group came up with last Friday.
Correct. Thank you. So do we have any other questions for Spencer before we go to the motion? Comments, questions? Okay, well done. So action is requested. Do we have a motion to recommend to TPC approval of the Shift 2026 boost process as done by the working group and the TPCC committee?
So moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
thank you very much. Any discussion? Okay, hearing done. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is amendment to the fiscal year 2025-28 Transportation Improvement Program and Kentuckiana Multimodal Transportation Plan. Chris Nicholas will discuss the proposed changes in the amendment and seeking recommendations to forward this to TPC. So action is requested. Thank you, Chris.
And Brad, got a presentation while that's getting pulled up, little update, and correct me if I'm wrong, and one from KYTC or not, but we were waiting, our new tip was approved by TPC and TTCC back in May, and then we got federal approval in June. We were waiting for the tip to get entered into both state STIPs. And in Kentucky, we got that the other day, and I believe we got admin mod 1 and 2 both into the Kentucky STIP. And earlier this morning, I looked at the INDOT STIP page, and it looks like
So it's been approved, but they're waiting, like, they changed the website before they should have. So the official announcement hasn't been made yet, but from what I am understanding, it's approved. It's still getting like final check with Federal Highway, but as far as I know, for the website, it's done.
yeah, great, because it used to say pending, and then
Yeah.
our tip and everybody else's tips all said pending,
Yeah.
and the pending has dropped off.
Cause we all got excited late afternoon yesterday and we're like, oh, hey, we can start submitting mods and stuff. And then so someone reached out to the STIP team and they're like, please hold off until next week. Nothing's been officially done, but the website got updated. Oh, very early.
Okay, well, okay, looks like we're in good shape.
Yes,
Coming,
yes.
great.
Should be mid next week, I'm hoping.
Okay, thanks, Haley. All right,
So
so,
NDOT will let all the MPOs know that.
Yeah, they should be sending out I don't know if it's gonna come from April or like the communications team, but they should be sending an email out to everyone saying that's approved soon.
great. All right, so coming up shortly after that, we have our first amendment to that new tip. And due to the size, it's not in your packet, but I have this QR code. It was in the memo. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to look it over, but I'll give you all a minute if you want to pull it up and follow along. And again, this is tip amendment 1. MTV amendment 10. 2 names, 1 amendment. So this amendment, it includes a revision to chapter 7 of our newly approved tip. It's the subsection air quality status, not all of chapter 7. I'll get into that a little bit further in this presentation. That's not something we typically have in amendments. Typically, we have the project list. This one has 41 projects, which is not the biggest amendment, but it's bigger than most. And that's why we have the QR code. 15 of those, they did require air quality conformity model changes. So it was a full amendment. And this amendment included quite a lot of public comments during our public comment period off of the map specifically. Our standard amendment timeframe, you guys are familiar with that. Typically it's 3 to 4 months, but it can take up to 6 months. This particular amendment, we are past all of the ones on this presentation in black. We are in the red now. So
you can scratch those off the list. The applications were due on June 20th, and July was particularly for the air quality activities for most of that month, when we had our IAC meeting on July 15th. The public comment period ended yesterday, and the comments were sent to TPC this morning, and I'm about to ask for y'all's recommendation to have TPC approve it at the end of the month. And then following that, there'll be the federal review. So the amendment updates, as y'all know, they require more steps than admin mods because the updates are considered more regionally significant. We want to give the public an allotment of time to review and comment on the project updates. And there may require air quality modeling analysis, which this one did. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, Amendment 1 includes an update to the air quality status subsection. So once the amendment is fully approved by the federal partners, the revised version of that section will replace what we currently have in there. The IAC members were able to review and kind of converse about some of these edits. Kentucky DAQ requested the initial edits when we met, and then APCD also submitted some edits, and then we kind of gave the group a week to review and collaborate with that. But mainly the narrative revision adds clarity or specifics to the existing text, and also we upgraded figures 23 and 24 with some enhanced values at the data points, so it's a little bit easier to understand.
In fact, some of the language that was changed was some of that stuff that Dee was talking about earlier. It was related to, I guess, the exceptional events that determinations or requests for review from that 2023 Canadian wildfire smoke or haze that was through our region. So it involves that. So full circle here today at TPCC.
Oh, and in case anyone didn't open up the packet, those revisions are in front of the project list, if anyone wanted to check it out. Okay, so now to the projects. This amendment has 3 new INDOT projects. We have one intersection improvement project on State Route 62, and that's interesting because it's multiple intersections along the corridor. There's an access control project at International Drive on I-265, and then signal modifications throughout the Seymour district. And that concludes all of the Indiana updates for this amendment. For Kentucky, we have quite a few KYTC updates. We put in the remaining 2 NEVI electric vehicle charging stations that didn't quite fit through administrative modification, so we have those here. We have some roadway reconfiguration projects on Kentucky 22 and also North English Station Road. And also on North English Station, there's a multi-use path. And then KIPTA ID 3381, which is Kentucky 2054. There's an update to the description. It previously said 5 signals, and now we're moving that to 7 signals. A lot of those were with HSIP dollars, and I have a few more also coming from that funding source on US 42, which is Story and Millwood corridors. There's another HSIP project geared toward making improvements for vulnerable road users in the Virginia, Hale, Doomsnell area. A lot going on with that project. We have a right sizing and signal retiming between 9th and Baxter on US 150, or I said US 150.
Broadway.
Yeah, it is US 150. It's Broadway. Then we have a couple Kentucky 44 projects. These are with SPP funding adjustments to align with the enacted highway plan. some I-71 projects, including some sound wall and one widening project. We have a new project on John Harper Highway for congestion reduction. We have Kentucky 245, a new widening project, and this project, it extends further beyond that, but we've got about 4.5 miles in Bullitt County. The overall project extends farther. So this estimate of total project costs, it's important to note that that is just for the Bullitt County portion. In case there's any questions on that. And then a traffic operations and safety project on Bardstown Road from Bullitt to the Bullitt Nelson line to Kentucky 44. Okay, a few more on Kentucky 22. We have a new safety project and an update to KIPTA ID 1488. That update is to align the description with what is in the state highway plan. Then a new safety access management project on Kentucky 362. We have KIPTA ID 389 called I-64. That project is getting an update to the open to public year and TIP funding updates. Then another section of US 42. That is a roadway reconfiguration. It's just for that particular segment. That project is adjacent to a few other similar projects that all have different KIPTA IDs. And we have a transportation system management and demand management on US 31E Bardstown Road between Douglas and Hikes Lane. And then finally for KYTC, we have a NHS project addressing safety and congestion at Breckenridge and Dutchman's Lane. In relation to that project, I'm gonna move on to the Louisville Metro projects. So the first project I have listed here was essentially the same project that I just talked about with KYTC as the sponsor. This one, the Louisville Metro version, was an MTP only project. And so we're removing that as a redundant project. And next, we have a few somewhat older like PED projects from Metro. We needed some funding and mapping updates to properly program in the LaGrange Road case, it's TA funds, and in some of the other ones, it's older CMAQ funds. We wanted to align those with the proper IDs, and also we had to make some mapping updates because they're parent-child projects, some of these, and so we had a few things that were slightly off there. Besides the LaGrange Road, they're the Louisville Loop projects and also the Olmsted Parkways projects, or Ohio River Valley projects, sorry. And then finally, the last project update was pretty much a last minute addition to this amendment. We have the Shelby Park Smoketown Traffic Calming Connectivity Project, and that one is with earmarked funds. We call it community project funding. I think we got a lot of good feedback for that. And then the last 4 projects are all TARC projects. These are 585 child projects. They're capital funding projects. We have one that's purchasing paratransit vehicles. There's a management information system software project, security enhancements project, and then a rehab maintenance buildings project. And that concludes my full list. So it'll be action. It'll be, I think, 2, 1 to the MTP and 1 to the TIP.
Yes, that's how we probably should do this, as we traditionally.
Sounds good. Thank you. Do we have questions for Chris? Well, you shared everything we needed to know. Thank you. So do we have a motion to amend the TIP as presented today and forward to TPC for recommendations? Thank you, Isidro. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Anna. Any further discussion? Hearing done, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. And then the second motion would be, do we have a recommendation, do we have a motion to amend the MTP with amendments as presented today at the TTCC meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Okay, I'll second. Any further discussion? Hearing done, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition? Both motions carry over. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Item number 8, Indiana cost increases. Brady Hill will provide recommendations for cost increases for project in southern Indiana. Thank you, Brady.
We held a quarterly meeting with our Indiana sponsors on July 31st over in Floyd County, where we went through the typical process, reviewing the status of our interdedicated projects and also discussed what is to be done with the remaining unprogrammed funding in fiscal year 26 in Indiana. You'll see in your memos for this agenda item that the memo outlines an option A for a proposal and an option B for a proposal based on how much funding availability we thought at the time of July 31st would be available to projects. Unfortunately, there's the actual amount of money we have available is neither what we thought option A or option B would be. So today I'm gonna talk about why that is and then present option C to you, which is the recommendation based off the discussion that we had on July 31st meeting. Okay, so our base sub allocation included the numbers that you see here, at least this is the assumption that we had going into the July 31st meeting where these cost increases were discussed. Is the assumption that in Indiana would be sub allocated all those numbers for the 6 federal funding programs in Indiana. Also, the Campo funding swap agreement that was approved several months ago. So that would add 1.3 million of federal dollars to our region in fiscal year 26. And the section 164 penalty sub-allocation that our region receives. If you combine all those together, that leaves $7.3 million in federal funding available in fiscal year 26. There's also some question marks at the time of is the KIPTA region going to receive redistributed TIFIA funds in Indiana, and if so, how much? The FHWA sent out an announcement several months ago saying that any TIFIA funds that are not yet obligated would be redistributed to the states by population, and therefore some of that would be sub-allocated to the MPOs based on population, and that those funds would essentially be converted into STBG funds and TA funds respectively. But at the time, we didn't know exactly how much KIPTA would receive. There's one variable though that I did not consider in the assumption for how much money we would have, and that is an adjustment for fiscal 25 sub-allocations to the MPOs in Indiana throughout the state. That assumption is that in fiscal year 25, NDOT sends out estimates of how much funding that they predict will be available to all the MPOs. And then if that estimation is, if they overestimate how much money there's going to be available in a fiscal year, they don't, in the middle of that same fiscal year, take the money away from the MPOs who programmed projects based on that estimation. They say in the next fiscal year, in this case, fiscal year 26, we will sub-allocate less funds than we over-programmed you the previous year. So in essence, KIPTA received more money than we should have in fiscal year 25. And to compensate for that, we will receive less money in fiscal year 26 than would be the base sub-allocation. So that's a factor I did not consider in the discussions that we had on July 31st. So the actual amount of base sub-allocation that we have available is the numbers you see in red, which, when you combine all of them together, that leaves the combined amount down from $7.3 million federal to $6.5 million federal, so a little bit less. On the plus side, we did actually receive redistributed TIFIA funds of those amounts shown in green. So we received less of the combined amount, and we did receive the TIFIA funds, and that's the kind of final answer to the unanswered questions we had a couple of weeks ago when we discussed potential changes to fiscal year 26 funding. So what does that mean? That means that when you total all that together, KIPTA has about $7 million, as you can see in the top right there, available for fiscal year 26 via our sub allocation. We currently already have $5.1 million programmed, that was previously programmed. And we have about $1.875 million unprogrammed. That amount of money in the box is what we need to have a recommendation to program to. And so with that, I'm going to talk about option C, which is how to program that amount of money. We had a few different requests for funding from our sponsors in the meeting, but it was agreed upon by consensus at that meeting that the two highest priorities was one, Floyd County's Bridge 51 replacement project. They had an increase in their construction estimate, and they requested $1,733,076. If granted, that would give them an 80-20 split for their construction phase, which they are planning on letting in the next couple of months if everything goes smoothly. If that is approved, and that only leaves $142,733 federal remaining to program to something else. And the second highest project priority, as discussed in our meeting on the 31st, was Clark County's CR 311 in Sellersburg improvement project, where they had a need for their PE phase. Their request was actually for $500,000 federal dollars, but there's only $142,000 remaining, so the proposal here is to provide the remaining funds to that Clark County CR 311 project. There were a couple other requests, Progress Way right of way, and Great Reclaim extension in New Albany, that unfortunately, unless this group decides to spend the money a different way than was discussed a couple of weeks ago, there's not any money remaining at this time for those requests, or to meet the full request of Clark County's phase. So with that said, that is the action requested today, is to approve option C as recommended, or if there's discussion, we can have that discussion if there's an alternative that someone would like to propose for how to program the remaining fiscal 26 month.
Thank you, Brady. Any questions or comments here in the room or online? It looks like there was good understanding of what you presented. So do we have a motion to approve option C as a recommendations to move this topic to TPC meeting in August? Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. It's Larry Summers.
Thank you, Larry. Any further discussion? Hearing done, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brady. Item number 9 on the agenda, participation plan. Staff will discuss the development of an update to the KIPTA participation plan, and Greg will present.
Yes, so no presentation, but I just wanted to let everyone know that it is time for our update to our participation plan. We do that every 4 years. For the folks that don't know that, this is essentially the playbook for how, why, and where we work with the public. And it's also the reciprocal fact for that. So how they can feel like they have a seat at the table to be a part of TTCC, TPC, as well as all our outreach efforts, any events that we do. So I'm gonna go through, probably won't be too many changes. Obviously, we'll look through it again. We made an update after COVID, so we had a lot of the stuff put in there for how we handle meetings in the virtual world and the hybrid world type of things. Essentially, the plan is to send that to the public and September the 22nd. It'll run for 45 days. We'll be seeking approval for that update at November TPC. And that, I think, tentatively is November the 18th, but that is the plan right now. Just want to let everybody know that. Feel free to give me if you have any, look through it, you see some things in that plan that you feel like needs updates. I'm always open to hearing from TTCC, any members of that want to provide feedback on that.
Well, thank you for the update. Obviously, this topic is really important because for years we always discuss opportunities to approach hard to reach population and give them an opportunity to be part of the planning process, especially protected populations like low income minority groups. So it's a complex process, so to say, to allocate the funding, and community always in general feel that they should have more opportunities for input. The plan is helpful, the plan is good, maybe we can do some improvements and we can look into that. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Well, we got to the point to have other business on the agenda. Okay.
Real quick, if I might,
Absolutely.
just want to recognize Mayor Panini. Thank you for being here today, Mayor, from St. Matthews. Mike King from Louisville Metro was on the line. I think he's jumped off since then, so I want to recognize him. And then Bruce and Vince from Trimark's advisory members to this committee. So thank you guys for joining us. And then I think I also saw Tracy Lovell from KYTC District 5. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for everybody being here today. I think on my count, we had 22 voting member agencies in the room or in the meeting, and that's a big number. And then plus a few advisors. So thank you all for being here today.
Great. No other business?
No other business.
Thank you very
Not for me
much.
anyways.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Any comments before we move to motion to adjourn?
Hand up.
It's like
Okay.
Claire.
Or something.
Go ahead, Claire.
Hi, this is Claire with Kentucky DAQ, and I was just hopping on to let you all know that we have submitted the request to opt out of reformulated gasoline in Jefferson County and the portions of Bullen Oldham, and I'm going to drop a link in the chat. It's just to our webpage where you can find that final submittal. We have not yet heard back from EPA, but just giving you all a heads up that we did turn that in on August 4th.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Anyone else? Well, sounds good. So do we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. I second. All in favor? Thank you very much.